programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley, with convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut. Visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. How are we this morning, Pete? I know.
We had a crazy night last night.
What happened?
Well,
Do tell.
we had a planning board meeting, which a guy who I trained but still kind of green decided he wanted to do that meeting, which is fine.
Okay.
That freed me up, allegedly, to do the Westfield Technical Academy versus St. Mary's senior night game up at Bullens Field with former Mayor Dan Knapik.
Oh, how fun.
And then Emily, who you see walking around the shop, was agreed to do the Westfield High School band concert up at the high school.
Okay.
So everything was going fine, sort of, until Ryan called me at 5 of 7 or 10 of 7, said, I don't know how to get into the thing, and I walked him through that, got him in. He was a little flustered. He got his meeting started, and he forgot to turn on the audio until somebody called me. So about 15 or 18 minutes in, I remoted in, got the audio working, and reminded him that he had to start it. He goes, that's my fault. I forgot. Mm-hmm. So that was fine. So then we're doing the game, and Dan Knapik is not announcing because the parents that were supposed to show up to run the concession stand didn't. So Dan was flipping burgers.
Okay, then.
So I'm announcing with Jack Knapik. I'm down here, and Jack's up there, and we're trying to announce the game. Then I get a call from Emily.
Who was doing the band thing.
Right, at the high school.
Okay.
She said, my memory card is full on the camera. And I thought that a 32 gigabyte memory card would be enough. And I said, no.
Okay, then.
That's fine if you can walk around the corner. Well, so during the game, I told Jack on the air, I'm going to leave it on the home plate camera so you see the whole field.
Yep.
I ran to the high school and dropped her off a memory card.
Oh, my gosh.
Remoted it and fixed Ryan's problem over at, and this is all around the same time.
Oh, my gosh. Beat.
And then I didn't get home till about 10 because the game went long. And Westfield Tech won 9-4.
Okay.
I just.
Yeah, you sounded really tired this morning when I came in.
Yes.
And it's,
And it doesn't end because
I can usually tell when it's like a just regular Pete tired or Pete exhausted
Pete's
tired.
pooped, yes.
Yeah, this is like an exhausted. What else do you have going on today,
Today's
Pete?
the debut of Everything Southwick with Doug Moglin, who is the chair this year of the Southwick Select Board.
Well,
He's
very interesting that you bring that up because I was driving in this morning going, okay, third Wednesday of the month, so we have Diabetes Dialogue.
Yes.
Jen Giffune will be on this morning.
Yes.
Typically followed by Joe Didi, and I thought, okay, but Joe is no longer was that effective immediately, or is that like
it was effective
right
as of town meeting, the end of town meeting last night.
Okay, all right. So then I'm thinking, so now what happens with that show? So tell us a little bit about what's going on with the show now, Pete.
Everything Southwick was a show like we had with the other leaders.
Yep.
We had one with Will Reichelt, Alex Morse at the time, and Cohen from.
And I was going to say an Agawam.
Cohen
right?
from Agawam, right?
Yeah.
So they all had their own shows. The only one that survived is Everything Southwick.
Yep.
I did talk to Joe Didi. I let him cool down for a little bit because it was a little bit to process.
Sure.
Didn't really
Absolutely.
expect to lose the race, but you
Yeah.
know. So Joe said, if you had asked me the day afterwards, I probably would have given you a different answer. I extended the offer to have him host the Joe Didi show coming up the first Friday of every month
Okay.
at 9 a.m. after Artsbeat.
Okay.
So he's going to keep doing that. And I said, well, look at it this way, Joe. Now you can expand your scope outside of just Southwick and pull
Right.
guests in that you want.
Right.
You know, if you still want to concentrate on that and highlight a lot of the stuff you do for the Civic Fund, and
Yep.
maybe we'll talk ice cream and do shows at Moolicious
Yeah. How fun would
or
that
at the
be?
Big E or something.
Yeah.
But he wants to continue to do a show. He felt it was worthwhile, and he enjoys doing it.
Good. Well,
So that
I
show
was
will
thinking about
continue.
it, Pete, on the way in this morning, and I thought Joe Didi has been with us since we were up at the college.
Right.
And he's really survived a lot of. He's been doing the show a lot of years.
Correct. So
So,
I didn't
good
want
for
that to
him.
go away because
Yeah.
I feel he does bring value, and he actually enjoys coming in to do it.
Yeah.
Joe is kind of gruff around the edges, but you know, deep down he talks about it. He's like, you know,
Yeah.
he does enjoy doing it.
I think so. I agree.
So I said, now you'll have time to devote to getting a guest, you know,
Yeah.
at least for half an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
Also this week, I saved the John O'Brien initial debut podcast.
Okay.
John O'Brien from Baxter O'Brien is now
Yeah.
working for iHeartMedia
Okay.
and now has a podcast.
Okay.
So his initial podcast was at 7Bs.
Okay.
I went to see him off to
Yep.
go up there,
Yep.
grab something to eat, and watch the show because his first guest was Mayor Mike McCabe.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Okay.
So I pull up and the mayor pulls up and I see this gentleman pacing on a phone out in front. So I'm like, So I'm listening to conversations as I'm walking in, and he's talking about his board being wiped out because the power pin bent and he thought it was going to break off and this, that, and the other thing. So I said, well, I interrupted him in the middle of a phone call. I usually don't do that, but
Yep, but
he would
hey.
just keep talking. So I said, I live right down the street. I can go home and grab a board and get you up and running in about 15 minutes. He goes, oh, could you do that? I says, let me go to my car. So in my car, I realized I got my other board in the car, which would do the same job. So
Of course you do, Pete.
it was still in there from the Ronnie Gibbons retirement party. So,
Oh my gosh.
so we got him working, and it did
Yep.
okay, but
Yep.
it's just like,
Yep. Pete.
and of course, John is oblivious to everything. John prepares for his interviews, but he's like, well, the mayor brought his tech guy here, and he thought that Mike,
Yeah.
brought me,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
no, I just happened to show up. And
Yep.
yeah.
Exactly. Oh my goodness.
They still have my board because they weren't sure if they had another one at the station or not, and they wanted to get that one fixed. And I said, I don't have anything for it. Hold on to it. I gave him my card and said, just make sure it gets back to me. So
Yeah.
I'm powering the John O'Brien show now.
Oh my gosh, Pete, you absolutely you crack me up. Crack me up. So now what day was that? Was that over the weekend?
No, that was Monday.
Oh, okay, that was Monday.
Yeah.
So
it's
So how did it
Wednesday.
go with the mayor? How was the show?
Oh,
You
the
were
interview
there?
went well. I mean, there was, I thought it went pretty well.
Good.
I gave him some tips on how to improve things in the future. So
I love it. You go, Pete.
it's just like, what the heck? But I mean, he had some heavy hitters. Mike Dobbs was there.
Okay. Oh, was he? I want to meet him in person.
Pete Goonan was there. He used to be I think he's still with the Republican. He might be retired now.
Okay.
And Barry Krieger was there to see John off.
Wow. Well, that's really pretty cool.
Yep.
I want to meet Michael Dobbs. I'm a fan of just through reading his editorials, and
I walked
like
up to him
meet
and
him in person.
I walked up to him and said, my mom says hi, and he goes, like, look at me. Like,
Yeah.
I just threw him for a complete loop.
Yeah.
So my mom did all the legal notices and typesetting for the Reminder for years as a
Okay.
part-time job at night.
Okay. Well, how fun.
And I said, I threw out the name, and he looking, thinking. He goes, oh my God. He goes, Gene, yeah, that's right. And
Yeah,
he says to
yeah,
Pete, he goes,
yeah.
Gene did all our legal notices, did all our typesetting at night. She was a really fast typist, and we used to hire her. And then
Yeah.
everything dried up, so she stopped doing it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
But yeah, it's a small world.
Well, it is. Well, you guys are all, you've all been in the business.
And that's what I
you know
told
what
him.
You know what I mean? It's,
That's what I told the sales guy from HY, and I'm like, listen, this is a small market. Everybody helps each other out. Steve Nagel showed up. Steve Nagel showed up with a box, and I went, what the hell? What the heck is that? So it turns out John, when he stormed out, left all the stuff in his office. Steve gathered it up and brought it, dumped it all after the interview with Mike McCabe. He dumped it in front of me. He goes, take your junk and don't come back.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Well,
John started busting out laughing. He thought that was funny.
Good. Glad to hear it. So what's on tap for tonight, Pete?
I don't think there's anything on tap.
Is
there anything on tap for tonight?
I don't know.
What do you have on tap? How's your weekend?
Let's see. My weekend was, let me think about this for a second. Well, my brother came. So my brother and sister-in-law live in Bar Harbor, Maine.
Yep.
But they have a daughter their only daughter, and her husband and their 2 children live in Columbia, Maryland, which is just outside of Baltimore. So several years ago, they got an apartment in Baltimore. So that's their home. They're snowbirds, and that's their southern home. Yeah. So, home base is the house is up in Bar Harbor. I mean, they have a beautiful home there. So they're there 6 months, and they're in Baltimore the other 6 months. So my sister-in-law decided, I think it was last year or the year before, she hates, because they have 2 cars down there. So when they go back from Baltimore up to Maine, they follow each other up in the cars. And my sister-in-law really hates driving that New Jersey corridor by herself. They're in their 70s now. She's like, I don't need this stuff, So my brother doesn't mind it as much. So what Mike did was he drove his car up to our house and then stayed overnight with us on Saturday. So that was kind of cool because I haven't seen him in, since they go back. We're the bed and breakfast at the halfway point between Bar Harbor and Columbia, Maryland. So he came, stayed overnight, and then Sunday morning I took him to the airport. And he flew back down to Maryland. And then this coming weekend, the 2 of them will drive together to our house and then pick up Mike's car. And then Marianne doesn't mind. The drive from our house up to Maine is no big deal. She doesn't care about that. But it's just that whole sort of Baltimore area, all through New Jersey into New York. It's just like it's a little bit more than what she wants to do. So it's kind of cool for me because I'll get to see my brother again this weekend. So, and I get to see my sister-in-law, who's like, I don't have any sisters. So she is the sister that I never had. We're really, really close. So, so I'm excited about that. And let's see, I was, of course, at the Senior Center on Sunday working on the newsletter because my family thinks that is my full-time job. I just write the newsletter. That is like what I do.
It probably is.
They
probably should hire you after you leave.
I know, just to do the newsletter. It is so amazing at how much time that takes, but you have to, and now I'm at the point, Pete, where we want to put, I'm constantly having staff, can you do an article on this? Can you put this in? And I'm like, okay, I'm juggling stuff around. Now I'm at the point where I have to put an article in, but in order to do that, I'm either going to have to take an article out or cut an article down, because there are only so many words that I can put on the page. So that's what I was busy juggling. And of course, this week, today is our Mother's Day Parade of Hats turkey luncheon. So of course, my kitchen crew is already at the Senior Center. They've been there since God knows when. I stopped in there at 5:30. Things were humming, so they'd been there for a while. So ladies, remember when you come, you need to wear your hats. I reminded my staff too. It can be anything. It can be a fancy hat. It can be a baseball cap. It can be a homemade hat, which are the most fun. A couple years ago we did this and we had people making up hats and it was hysterical. So we'll take lots of pictures. It is reservation only. So sorry folks, if you didn't reserve, we're full. So you'll have to wait. So I was working on that because, we always try to make those things special. So that was, we were doing that. And I'm trying to stay a little bit more up to speed with all these different reports that I have to write. When you do grants, like a lot of people feel like, oh, you write a grant and then you get the money and that's it. Well, it's not it. For every grant that I write, you've got it, there are quarterly reports and annual reports. You have to come back to them and say, this is how we spent the money. This is what we did. So my Senior Safe grant, which is the one that I do with the fire department, and that's our whole Retire the Fire thing. I have to submit the annual report in January. The latest I have is January 30th. They like it by December 30th, which of course is right around the holidays. So that's hard. So every year the same thing happens, Pete. You come to the end of the year, it's like And I try to keep some notes as I go along, and I keep my statistics, and I like all my articles that are in the Westfield News. I have copies of all of those.
Sure.
But still, you're going back, and sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I forgot. That's right. I did a presentation here, and oh yeah, that's right, because you have to put down the number of presentations, how
Would
many
you think
people were
about
there.
keeping like a rolling document on your thing, like a journal?
Well, that's kind of what I started to do.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's what I've been working on. It's like, okay, I actually took the other
like
problem.
a Word doc or something.
Yeah, well, you know what? The easiest thing to do would be that when you get the grant, if they would give you the template for the annual report, and so that you could kind of just fill it in as you go along. They never do that. They don't give you the template for the annual report until it's due. And, even then you're going, okay, can you put it online? Can you put it online? So you know what I did, Pete? I just took last year's template because the template hasn't really changed much. So I just took last year's template and I started filling that in. I copied and pasted, and then I just started filling that in. So I worked a lot on that yesterday, but I'm completely up to speed. Everything was fresh in my mind because we do a lot during Retire the Fire Week and the whole month of March. And
Sure.
I thought, you know what? And I did some extra stuff. I went to the Big E Home Show this year, and Department of Fire Services had a booth,
Ward 1 counselors meeting?
there. Ward 1. Oh, that's right. I forgot about the Ward 1 counselors meeting too. Thank you. I got to add that in. So yeah, so lots of good stuff. So I've been kind of, just trying to look at that, and of course it's budget time, so
I know I'm trying to finish
I've done my budget, revised my budget. Now I have my budget ready. I always like to have a handout when we have our budget hearings. So we should probably talk about that because I did send you that email. I was getting questions from some of my seniors. Will they be able to watch it on TV?
Yes.
And the answer is yes.
I have coverage whilst I'm gone, and I also had to reschedule my time because normally the budget hearings don't start till after Memorial Day. So I scheduled vacation before Memorial Day
Yes.
because of the budget hearings.
Yep. But the budget hearings are starting next week.
Right.
On
So I did
Monday.
email Counselor Matthews Kane, and she said, "Yeah, that's no problem. We can
Yeah.
slot you in." She said, "You're not a big budget, so it's not a big deal."
Mm-hmm.
And I looked in the published budget, and some of the stuff that I thought was going to get wiped out didn't get wiped out. So I'm going to talk to him about it,
Good.
and I'm going to now I'll have money to completely revamp City Council and buy some more computers and things like that. So. I'm perfectly happy if they leave it in there. I got stuff I can upgrade and improve with it. So I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I might. They also left a position, and I proposed a clerk's position part time.
Yeah.
Like 15, 20 hours a week. I may ask them to keep that as a production associate full time.
Okay.
Instead of having a part time hourly person. So.
Yeah.
I have somebody in mind for that already.
Great. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I have plenty, as seen yesterday, I have plenty of work. So because it's tough, it's real tough getting volunteers. But I believe all these things are worthwhile as to cover.
Yeah, I agree. And I've talked about this before. Volunteers are wonderful.
But they're gone.
But they're gone. That's the beauty of volunteering. You can come and go as you please, or as your life circumstances change. And
it seems to me that when I was of the age of some of the kids nowadays, even though I was working, I still had time for things like doing volunteering and things like that. Whereas nowadays, it seems the kids don't have any time at all.
Yeah, it's
a different animal now.
It is.
So you really have to pay them something.
Yeah, yep. Got to have some little stipend or something. Yep,
even if it's not up to par or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, I pay good money for the people that I have.
Yep.
But it's still under $20 an hour, and a lot of jobs are paying that to work at a gas station now.
I know, and sign on bonuses and
right.
kind of you name it. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff. So. Yep. So
and with gas prices being $4 a gallon, it doesn't really go very far.
I know. Yeah. So the budget hearings, just for our viewing audience. So what that means is that the Finance Committee, and I had to explain this to somebody because they had a lot of questions about it and what the process is. The process is a little different now than it's been in the past. A few years ago, Councillor Figge, who was chair of finance at the time, changed things up a little bit. The way it used to be was the mayor presented the budget to the full city council, which Mayor McCabe did at the last city council meeting, and it automatically goes to the finance committee, which is a 3-member committee. And in past years, the finance committee would then send out a schedule and would meet with each department head individually to review our budgets. And those are usually about a 15-minute meeting or so. And you answer questions and you present your budget and explain why you put money where you put it. And then and that would take, many meetings, many evenings, and then it would go back to the full city council, and then they would go through it's almost like you're going through the whole process again. The difference is that when full city council has it, the department heads cannot answer any questions unless they're actually in attendance and called to the podium. Yeah, you have to be called to the podium. What used to frustrate me as a department head was, my budget would be discussed, and the discussion is going back and forth among the counselors, and one counselor saying, well, I think blah, 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 and another one saying, well, I interpret it to be blah, blah, blah. I'm sitting in the room, and unless somebody calls me up and asks for clarification, they're just debating, and they both may be wrong.
Well, and then also in years past,
never made sense to me.
All the counselors could show up at the subcommittee meeting and kind of informally ask questions.
Right.
Well, there came up as an ethics ruling saying you couldn't do that. It was an open meeting violation. So, so they changed the format. Like and now you have to have a council meeting of the whole run by the finance committee.
By the finance committee, and so, but it does kind of cut down that extra step. So you've got all the counselors there.
Well, and then if the counselors don't show up, shame on them.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say they're invited. Yeah, they're not mandated to come, but I in the last couple of years, most of them are there.
Most of them go,
yeah. So that's the way it'll be. The schedule is out, and it happens over many evenings. I mean, it takes a long time. We have a lot of departments.
I think there's like seven sessions.
That's what I said. When I started listing them for you, I was like, holy smokes, this is way more than I even realized. But luckily for me, I don't know when yours is. Mine is next Tuesday, so I'm one of the early ones. Not only that, Pete, I'm the first one on the docket that night, so at 5:30. So
I think I'm rescheduled for the 31st because I was scheduled for one of the first meetings. I think it was
that's
the same.
What I thought. I think we were the same night as me. Yeah.
Right, but I'm not going to be here.
You're going to be on vacation.
So it's like I'm not going to give that up. I really need to get away because
yeah, absolutely.
The week that I come back is both graduations.
Yeah.
It's
crazy time.
We have a Velas taping, I think, now that week. We have something on Wednesday. It's just going to be nuts.
A lot of stuff. Yeah, a lot of stuff. Yeah, and I mean that's happened in the past. They've had to change mine too, but I'm pretty happy that I'm kind of up front and get this over with.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think mine's all that controversial.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that mine is not either, but it's
you never
funny.
Know.
You just never know what, and it only takes one counselor to hone in on one thing. And sometimes it's not the thing you think they're going to go after. Sometimes I know I've gone to these before where I'm all prepared, of why I've put the money over here. And out of the blue, somebody will say, well, what's going on over here? I'm thinking, really? That's what you're going to ask me about? Like
one thing is a constant in the universe, like Newton's first law. Dave Flaherty will question why the PEG budget is paying the Genie bill to connect all the buildings for fiber. Every year he does this. Every year in my budget meeting, I suggest to the mayor it should be on the technology center. And then that's all their decisions. It's not mine.
Yeah.
But every year, that's Dave's pet peeve. It's one of Dave's pet peeves.
And you know what? And Councilor Flaherty's probably thinking, I'm just going to keep bringing it up until somebody changes this.
I agree.
And every once in a while, and every once in a while, that happens. I think, he brings it up, and eventually it's like, okay, yeah, maybe we ought to look at this.
I tend to agree with him, and I don't mind. I don't mind paying a fair, more than my fair share because I'm a big user of the network. So I don't have a problem with that. But yeah.
Well, I think
I agree with the man.
Yeah. Well, and that's all you can. And I've done the same thing. Sometimes it's like, well, yeah, I don't disagree with you on that one, but
that's been a mayor's call since long before I started this job, and it'll be a mayor's call long after I'm gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. You always, I have found myself, because I've done this for many years now, and, you sort of find yourself as a department head. You put your budget together. You know why you did what you did, or, and you're trying to second guess, like, which counselors are going to go after which pieces of it. And it's just so that you are prepared, so that you can answer the questions that you think are coming. You know
Yep.
what I mean? It's always challenging when they, as I said, when they go after something that's unexpected, and you're thinking, oh, wait a minute, hold on, I got all this information here because I thought you were going to ask me about that, and now you're asking me about this.
Luckily, mine's not as
Interesting.
complicated as yours.
Interesting
and
process. And you know what, Pete? Mine
police,
is not. Yeah, mine is
technology.
not as complicated as others.
Mine's
so I've
only
been
like
told.
1 page.
Yeah, so
in
I've
the
been
budget.
told. Well, you know, it's really interesting because I've had counselors, say, in the scheme of things, Tina, your budget's not that big a deal. And, but I don't know what other department, but I could, but I don't look through them.
The budget is like 334 pages.
I
I
know.
think.
It's like I got enough with my own.
I
I
just-
just have my little 2 pages.
Right. I had to scroll down to find mine. I was like, okay, well, that was interesting. Okay, that was left in. All right, that was
Yeah.
left in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I did the same thing. I was like, whoa, baby. All right. All right. Let's do one famous birthday so that we can
Now that we've blown through our
I know.
2
Like
breaks.
we already, we're on our second break. You know what? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let's just go.
Okay. All right. So today is May 18th. So it is the birthday of George Strait, country singer, born on this day in 1952 in Poteet, Texas. He is 70 years old. Country singer George Strait eloped with his high school sweetheart, Norma, before joining the Army. While stationed in Hawaii, he began singing in the Army-sponsored band called Rambling Country. After years of futile attempts at a record contract, Strait signed a solo contract with MCA Records in 1981. Featuring the hit single Unwound, his first album, called Straight Country, was influential in increasing the radio play of more traditional, less pop-influenced country music. Strait went on to produce a series of #1 albums over the course of the next decade, including, I love this because the guy's name is Strait. You can do so much with that. Straight from the Heart, 1982.
Sure.
Does Fort Worth Ever Cross Your Mind, in 1984. Something Special, Oceanfront Property, and Beyond the Blue Neon, all of which were certified platinum or multi-platinum. Known for staying true to traditional country sound, he has won multiple awards and has the biggest selling boxed set in country music history. In September of 2008, George Strait was honored with 2 CMA awards, one for Album of the Year and the other for Single of the Year. In 2009, he earned a Grammy Award for Troubadour and also landed the Artist of the Decade Award from the Academy of Country Music. He has also been named Entertainer of the Year at CMA Awards 3 times, most recently in 2013. So let's take a break and listen to, I love the title of this song, All My Exes Live in Texas.
This is a country standard.
It is by George Strait. On his birthday, you're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. We'll be back.
All my exes live in Texas, and Texas is a place I dearly love to be. But all my exes live in Texas, and that's why I hang my hat in Tennessee. Rosanna's down in Texarkana, wanted me to push her broom. Sweet Eileen's in Abilene, she forgot I hung the moon. And Allison's in Galveston, somehow lost her sanity. And Dimples, who now lives in Temple's, got the law looking for me. All my exes live in Texas, and Texas is a place I dearly love to be. But all my exes live in Texas, and that's why I hang my hat in Tennessee. I learned to swim, but it brings to mind another time where I wore my welcome thin. By transcendental meditation, I go there each night, but I always come back to myself long before daylight. All my exes live in Texas, and Texas is a place I dearly love to be. But all my exes live in Texas, therefore I reside in Tennessee. Some folks think I'm hiding, it's been rumored that I died, but I'm alive and well in Tennessee.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Arts Beat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:31. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, a sleepy Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Sure, there's that.
There is that. As a reminder, it is the third Wednesday of the month. So Jen Giffune, our registered dietitian, I like to kind of think of her as our own personal registered dietitian and licensed nutritionist here at and Jen has been with us for a long time too. She was
5
she was
years
also
at least?
she was at the radio station with us up
Sure,
at up at the college. Took a little break for about a year and a half or two, and then came back. So,
I'm actively recruiting Akinyele to come back.
that would be awesome.
I read him the riot act at my doctor's appointment on Monday.
Oh, poor Akinyele. They are so.
I told him he could come in via
sweet.
Zoom, you know.
Yeah, we could do it via Zoom. Well, now that I know that you've kind of like planted that seed, then I will take over, Pete. I will start emailing. And you, well, you know what
Because he does bring a lot of insight to him. Every time I talk to him, my girlfriend's like, well, he's not a lot of active. I said, yeah, but he gives me information that I can act on, which is helpful.
Yep. Yeah, and it's so funny.
I learned out I can't take Claritin.
Oh, really?
Oh, my heart was racing. I
measured
my heart rate at 190.
Wow.
It was flying, and I have a pulse oximeter because I'm a gadget guy.
Yes, of course.
And I was talking to my girlfriend. I'm like, my heart's racing. I got to pop that thing on. And I went, what? Screaming. I said, if this doesn't slow down in the next minute, I'm calling the ambulance.
Yeah, wow.
And it did, but he's like, well, you can't take Claritin.
So that's
Thanks for that insight, Doc.
Exactly. Well, of course, my way to get...
Because sometimes you don't know. He says it's different for every person.
Right.
You could take blood pressure medication and be fine with it. So.
Yep. Well, my way to get to Akinyele is through his wife, Christina Lovelace.
She's crazy busy, too.
She is. I know, but see, but here's the thing. In the old days, when I used to email him, like I'd remind him about the show and what topic would you like to talk about? And of course, I would get the emails back like literally, Pete, the morning of the show when I would stop in at 5:30 in the morning. I'm going, okay.
Yeah, because he's like me. He's like a mad genius.
Yeah. So then I started CCing Christina on those emails, and all that did was it just meant that he would get back to me in a more timely manner.
Well, she's his operations manager.
Yeah.
She really is.
Yep. She's awesome. She's on our friends board, and she's fabulous.
Well, and he keeps things running, but she's great at logistics.
Yes. Well, do you know Christina has her own little business going now? Do you know about that?
Wouldn't surprise me.
So she is now doing wedding planning.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yep. Yep.
She's also the main driving force. She's like the right-hand man in the marketing department, along with Hope over at St. Mary's.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I think
Absolutely.
her and Hope are like a tag team.
Yes, she is hysterical. Well, when we do, we Zoom our friends' board meetings, and so we had one last week, I think. And I'm going, Christina. She's usually at home. Sometimes she's in her car. Sometimes she's still over at St. Mary's. But she was at home, and I said to her, I said, "Are you in?" We were there early, the first, like the first two there.
Yep.
I said, "Are you at home?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "What are you doing over there?" I mean, there were just piles of stuff everywhere because she has, all this wedding stuff for people.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
favors over here and piles over here and programs over here. And she said, "Oh yeah, my house is not my house anymore." So
Oh, we're going to be taping.
having
Well,
a good
I've
time.
double booked, so we're taping Senior Center Presents today with Harry on Zoom.
I know. That's fine. That's great.
I booked Harry, and then somehow the Marks thing dropped off my calendar. Google's been doing some weird stuff over the.
Okay. Because I wondered about that. I'm thinking, wow, we had this scheduled a
Yes.
while ago, and usually Mark Auerbach schedules his pretty much in advance. And I was like, how did
I
that
got to double
happen?
check Mark's
Yeah.
email to make sure all his stuff's scheduled, but.
Okay.
I was like,
Yeah.
well, we could do yours on Zoom, and I'll just set you up to record, and we'll just record it.
Yeah.
And Harry's like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll take it away. She'll be a great guest. All right, let's do this birthday. I have a birthday and a national day that I got to get in before we take the next break. So this guy I had to do this one because his background is just, wait till you hear this. So it is the birthday, today is May 18th. It is the birthday of the late Gary Paxton, musician, songwriter, born on this day in 1939 in Coffeyville, Kansas.
Okay.
He died in 2016 at age 77. So Gary Paxton, who began his career as a teenager in the singing duo Skip and Flip, that was the name of their duo, Skip and Flip, produced the hit pop singles Alley Oop and Monster Mash, composed hundreds of songs, and ended his career as a Grammy-winning gospel musician. So Paxton's professional trajectory as a songwriter, record producer, and sometime performer coursed from rock and roll to contemporary Christian music. His personal life resembled a gangsta rap video that mixed violent, comic, and counterculture overtones and ended with an inspirational beat. So this is a quote from him. "I was molested when I was 7, he wrote in the testimony section of his ministry's website. I started writing songs when I was 10. I had spinal meningitis at 11. We moved to Arizona when I was 12. I had my own rock and roll band by the time I was 14. When I was 16 years old, I wrote my first million seller, recording it at age 17. After surviving adolescence, Paxton was buffeted between sudden stardom and abject poverty. Twice he was delivered to mental institutions because of drug and alcohol abuse.
Oy.
He was accused of driving a wedge between the television evangelist Jim Baker and his wife Tammy Faye Baker
No kidding.
as scandal broke over reports of extramarital affairs. He was shot 3 times by hitmen, said to have been hired by a disgruntled singer. And after his business partner died, he wandered into a church and was baptized, turned to gospel music, and went on to win a Grammy Award for Best Inspirational Performance. By 1960, Mr. Paxton was in Hollywood. He produced and sang Alley Oop with the short-lived group the Hollywood Argyles. He also produced Monster Mash for the singer Bobby Boris Pickett. The single reached #1 just before Halloween in 1962 and became a pumpkin seasonal perennial, hitting the top 10 again a decade later. How to do him. Colorful character.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right? Colorful character. So happy birthday to the late Gary Paxton. Today is National Visit Your Relatives Day. So National Visit Your Relatives Day on May 18th encourages family members to stay connected. Our hectic lives make it easy to get caught up in the busyness of today's fast-paced lifestyle. We often lose touch with our relatives. The observance reminds us to stop for a moment, take some much-needed time, and visit those relatives we care about and have not seen or spoken to for a while. Sometimes it's hard when families don't live close by. Often siblings, cousins, parents, and dear relatives are scattered across the country. A, quote, visit can be a phone call or a face-to-face live chat on the computer. Of course, we all know about Zoom nowadays and Google Meet.
Sure.
With today's technology, we are now able to communicate with loved ones living far away, yet seeing them as if they're right beside us. So life is much too short not to make time for family.
Yep.
I agree with that.
Yep.
So Grace.
That's when I do
go
road
ahead.
trips. I try to visit family if I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Gary's really good about that as well. Just like kind of connecting with cousins and people that you kind of lose a little touch with, or you get the Christmas card thing. So that's kind of one way to sort of keep in touch with people. But he's really good about that.
When I did my Eclipse trip in 2017, I knew I was going out to Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a point to visit my cousins in Indiana on the way out.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's so fun sometimes to kind of reconnect with.
Absolutely, yeah.
Gary's been really great. He has his mother's sister, who is the only living relative of those. There were 4 siblings on his mom's side of the family. And his mother's sister, Aunt Ellen, recently moved from New Jersey down to Florida because both of her sons relocated to Florida. So she's in assisted living. She was living in assisted living in New Jersey. And, when she was in New Jersey, Gary would go to visit her when, whenever he went down to visit his family, because our families were originally from that state. So now that she's in Florida, he is really good. He calls her about every 3 weeks, and he'll generally call her, like on a Sunday afternoon, and, just like talk to her for 10 or 15 minutes. And he said, it's always, for him, he said, it's always a bright spot because she's a very positive person. The glass is always half full. She's in her 90s, and you would think making a move from New Jersey, which is where she lived her entire life, down to Florida, would be kind of traumatic. But she's just rolling with the punches, and everybody's so friendly here.
Yep.
And, she goes and plays bingo and does her, her cards and whatever. So yeah, National Visit Your Relatives Day. So pick up the phone, send an email, do a FaceTime, whatever it takes. Okay.
Absolutely.
All righty. Let's see. What else do we have going on here? Oh, I got another birthday to do. Oh, let's do Pope John. It is the birthday, of the late Pope John Paul II. He was born on this day, May 18th, in 1920 in Poland. Passed away in 2005 at the age of 84. Growing up, John, I love this because you think, Pope, pious, religious from the time he was born. Not so much.
He was a bit of a scallywag.
Yeah. So growing up, John Paul was athletic, and he enjoyed skiing and swimming. In 1938, he attended the University of Krakow in Poland, where he showed an interest in theater and poetry. The school was closed the next year by Nazi troops during the German occupation of Poland. Wanting to become a priest, John Paul began studying at a secret seminary run by the Archbishop of Krakow. After World War II ended, he finished his religious studies at a Krakow seminary and was ordained in 1946. Considered one of the Catholic Church's leading thinkers, John Paul, not yet, but John Paul participated in the Second Vatican Council, sometimes called Vatican II. Now, Pete, you're younger than I am, but do you remember Vatican II?
I know of it because I did 12 years of Catholic school.
Okay. So for me, because I'm a little older, Vatican II was a big stinking deal because
it was a fundamental root change of the Catholic Church.
Everything. And there were so many things that were different. Prior to Vatican II, the whole Mass was said with the priests back to you in Latin.
And that was worldwide.
Yeah, absolutely. And so everything was done everybody was facing the altar, including the priests. So you couldn't see what was going on.
Right.
And it was in a language that most of us didn't understand. And Vatican II changed that. That was a huge visual. I was a child at that time, but I remember it vividly because I can remember like 6, 7, 8
Vatican II was decided before I was born.
Yeah.
But the changes, and even to now today, if I go to church, I haven't been to church in a while, but the changes are so fundamental in the American Catholic branch.
Yes, branch. Yes,
it really is.
Absolutely. So the council began reviewing church doctrine in 1962, holding several sessions over the course of the next few years. As a member of the Vatican II Council, John Paul helped the church to examine its position in the world. Well regarded for his contributions to the church, John Paul was made a cardinal in 1967 by Pope Paul VI. In 1978, John Paul II became the first non-Italian pope in more than 400 years. A vocal advocate for human rights, John Paul often spoke out about suffering in the world. He held strong positions on many topics, including his opposition to capital punishment. A charismatic figure, John Paul used his influence to bring about political change and is credited with the fall of communism in his native Poland. He was not without his critics, however. Some have stated that he could be harsh with those who disagreed with him and that he would not compromise his hard-line stance on certain issues, such as contraception. And that's where he and I parted ways. He died in Italy in 2005. It was announced in July of 2013 that he would be declared a saint in April of the following year. So he was a pretty interesting man and certainly did a lot.
I remember doing a senior paper on him for World Religion. So.
Really?
Yep.
Very cool. So happy birthday to the
Did
late
you,
Pope John Paul.
You don't have social media, but
I do not.
Polish President Lech Walesa is on a speaking tour in the Northeast, done a couple things. And on Interstate 84, I believe he had a flat tire.
And he was, and he
Did you
was.
see the story?
I heard it on National Public Radio.
Yeah, the trooper that rescued him was an emigre from Poland.
Yep.
There's a picture that I reposted of the trooper taking a picture with the president.
I did. Heard about it on National Public Radio.
Apparently, they had
that was pretty cool.
Great chat after they changed it.
They did, and that's what I heard. And I think it was. Do I have this right? Was it in Polish?
I believe so. Yeah.
I think that it was in Polish. Yeah, I thought that was very, very cool.
But think about that. What are the odds of that happening?
Can you imagine
being on that shift?
Right.
Going to that call, getting assigned that call by a dispatcher.
Yeah. I know. Unbelievable.
That probably made his career.
Yeah, like his life. I mean, story. What a great story to tell at cocktail parties.
And think about the president too, knowing that he fostered a movement which made his country free from Soviet rule, and allowed this person to come to the U.S.
come to the United States,
or even his family. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty wild.
It was a great story. Absolutely, it was a great story. All right, do you want to do the which song are you doing here, Pete?
I think we're doing the Argyles. Why don't we just keep doing the way we're doing?
Okay.
And then we'll have a closing song.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, so you're listening to, I know we're going to take a break. It is 6:46. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We're going to listen to the Hollywood Argyles featuring Gary Paxton, who we just read this really colorful background on, singing their hit song, Alley Oop. We'll be back.
There's a man in the funny papers we all know. He lives way back a long time ago. He don't eat nothing but a bear cat stew. Well, this cat's name is Alley-Oo. He got a chauffeur that's a genuine dinosaur. And he can knuckle your head before you count too far. He got a big ugly club and a head full of hair. Like great big lions and grizzly bears. He's the toughest man there is alive. Wearing clothes from a wildcat's hide. He's the king of the jungle jive. Look at that caveman go. He rides through the jungle tearing limbs off of trees. Knocking great big monsters dead on their knees. The cats don't bug him 'cause they know better. 'Cause he's a mean motor scooter and a bad go-getter. He's the toughest man there is alive. Wears clothes from a wildcat's hide. He's the king of the jungle jive. Look at that caveman go. There he goes. at that caveman go. He sure is hip, ain't he? Like what's happening? He's too much. Right.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:50. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So,
I think I just had a wild idea.
What's your wild idea?
I got to redo all the bumps, so maybe I'll just record some stuff and edit on the train while I keep myself busy.
Oh, that's a good idea.
19 hours on the train, so
There it is.
I've got plenty of time to do that.
So listen, Pete. I have some, I have some announcements to make of stuff going on around the city. But before we do that, can you just, because we kind of glazed over this. So following this show,
Yes.
are we changing the title or is
No,
it staying the
everything's
same?
Southwick.
So everything's Southwick. And now who's going to be hosting that?
Select Board Chair Doug Moglin.
Okay.
He works locally out for Wally Computer.
Okay. And has he been one of the selectmen for a while in
Select-
Suffolk?
Yeah, you can't say selectman anymore. They
Select
changed it. Select Board Member.
Select board member, thank you.
Yes.
Select person. I don't know
Yeah,
what
Select Board Members,
Okay.
I think is how they
All right,
go with.
select board member.
But yeah, he's been a member for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So he'll be hosting.
We're expanding our programming, and we have another new program.
Yeah,
so
I know.
that's
So
great.
that's so cool.
And
Okay,
I
very
just
good.
sent a message to Jason Perone, who wants to be active too. And I
Okay.
said either I'll do an interview with him once a month, or he can be a guest on Kenny's show or something like that. Or,
All right.
we'll figure
Sounds
something
good.
out.
All right. So we're really kind of bringing Southwick in.
Yeah, well, you know what? It really is because we're
Yeah.
kind of teamed up now
Yeah,
with Southwick
absolutely.
and Agawam. We're all co-producing the John Vilas show, so we're working together to try for programming. So.
And now, speaking of working together, I was texting Cindy Sullivan, who's the director of the Southwick Council on Aging, yesterday because
who got a lot of new responsibilities.
yes, she does. And I said to Cindy, I said, well, the rumor had it, because some of my seniors were saying that the Southwick Senior Center was closed this week. And so I texted Cindy because, of course, the first thing I think of is everybody's sick with COVID and they had to shut down. So
Right, yep.
I texted Cindy and I said, are you okay? I said, the rumor has it that you guys are closed this week. Is there any way that I can help? What can I do? And so she sent me a text back, and she, of course, I could almost hear her laughing through the text. It's like, no, we're not closed. I'm open. She said, I do have staff. We all have staff that are taking vacations because everybody's trying to get their vacations in before the end of the fiscal year. They're going to lose
sure.
them. So, she said, I'm pretty much here by myself right now. But she said, no. But she said, what happened was last week they had the election in Southwick.
Right.
So they must use the senior center.
They do.
And so she said, we were closed on that day. And next Wednesday in the afternoon, they're closed because she's doing her volunteer recognition luncheon. We did our volunteer recognition breakfast in Westfield a couple of weeks ago. Cindy's doing hers
Sure.
next week. So she said just those two events, but somehow that got interpreted through, it's like playing telephone when you're a little kid. And by the time it gets to the end,
they call it the rumor mill for a reason.
Right. And by the time it gets to the end, they're closed. And she said, no, we're here. We're open. So just to let everybody rest assured. Mark Auerbach asked me to make this announcement, and so I shall. So May 19th, which is tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at the Westfield Athenaeum. They are doing Musicians of the Springfield Symphony Orchestra. Tickets are $20, I believe, unless you're a member of the Athenaeum.
Right, and you have to call them to get a ticket in
and you
advance.
have to call to get a ticket in advance. So you can call the Athenaeum if you're interested. They have a violinist, Marcia Harbison, Ronald
I think they're like
Gorovic.
small.
There's a cellist, a
trios.
flutist. Yeah, I think it's just and pianist. So it looks like there are 5 of them or so.
Yeah, small ensembles.
Yeah, just a small
and
ensemble.
it'll be in the Lang.
Yeah, Lang Auditorium, which is downstairs, right?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. So that's tomorrow. If you have an interest, at 7 o'clock. Tickets again are $20, and you can call the Athenaeum and get the information.
Believe that is the final one in the series.
Yes,
I believe
it
there
is.
were 3.
Yes, that is the final one. That I do remember because Mark had asked me if I would announce it, and I said sure, I'm happy to, but just give me a little bit more information. And he sent me the link to the Athenaeum. So I went that route and went on and got the information. And I also just have a couple of announcements about Stanley Park because there's a couple things going on there that folks should know about. So first of all, they have reinstituted their walk around the park. They did that program pre-COVID, usually in like May into June. So it started on Thursday, May 12th, which was last week, and it'll go through June 30th. It's every Thursday from 9:30 to 10:30. As we welcome spring, we'll once again be holding our walk around the park. The walks are held Thursday mornings from 9:30 to 10:30, as I said. These walking sessions are part of Stanley Park's health initiative to provide a beautiful environment in which to get some exercise while meeting our staff and learning a little history about various sites around the park. All abilities are welcome, and group ability level will determine the walking route. Possible routes will be within the main areas of the park and or in the wildlife sanctuary. And walking shoes, obviously, are recommended for that. So, no, you don't have to sign up in advance. The only thing I'm not sure about is I assume that you're meeting like at the either at the Carillon or in the Rose Garden. That's usually where those and I will try to get some information from Hillary McEwen on that. And the other thing that I wanted to announce, because I've already had my seniors asking me about the wheel walk, because typically the wheel walk at Stanley Park has been held in June. And actually, Hope Tremblay, you brought up Hope's name before, is in charge of that. This year, what they decided to do was incorporate the wheel walk into Run Stanley 5K, which is actually going to be Run Stanley 5K. It's going to be a 10K. It's going to be the Munchkin Run. It's going to be the stroll and the wheel walk, and it's all going to be one big combination, and that will be held on Sunday, October 2nd. And Pete, I hope you marked your calendar because you did agree to do DJing for us that morning.
When is
10
it?
o'clock, October 2nd.
Okay.
Sunday, October 2nd. Put it on your calendar there, buddy. Because, of course, Pete helped to get me on that committee, the Run Stanley committee, when, somewhere on the air, when I suggested we need something for
Vanessa
the seniors. I had Vanessa on. And
that's when you had Vanessa on and you were talking about it.
We were up at the college.
Yeah,
we were up at the college. And my thing was, because I was running Run Stanley, but I said, you should have some kind of a walk so so that our seniors could participate. And you said right away, she goes, you said, team.
Oh, it's already in my calendar.
I think you just joined a committee. So there it is.
That's also the final day of the Big E.
On October 2nd. Oh, yeah, that's right. It would be.
Yep.
All right, let's do another birthday. It's the birthday of Reggie Jackson, Major League Baseball player, born on this date in 1946 in Wyncote, Pennsylvania. He's 76 years old. Baseball great Reggie Jackson was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1993. Jackson's hard-hitting, fast-footed style helped him lead 2 teams to 5 world championships in only 7 years. Reggie Jackson was an all-star athlete in track. He was on the football team. He was in basketball and in baseball by the time he entered his senior year of high school. He left Arizona State University after his sophomore year and entered the world of professional baseball. In his first full season in the majors, he hit 29 home runs and drove in another 74 runs. But he also made a dozen outfield errors and struck out a near record-breaking 171 times.
Oh, yeah, he was one of the first power hitters.
Yeah, right, exactly. The following season in 1969, he again held a record number of strikeouts with 142, but he hit a fantastic 47 home runs and led the American League in scoring with 123 runs. Reggie Jackson helped lead the Athletics to the American League Western Division title in 1971 with 32 home runs. In 1972, the Athletics won the title again. In the playoffs, the Athletics beat the Detroit Tigers, with Jackson sliding into home plate to score the winning run in the final game. But he tore a muscle in one of his legs, which forced him to sit out the World Series. Voted the American League's most valuable player in 1973, Reggie Jackson batted a .293 and led the league with 32 home runs. That year, the team went on to win the World Series over the New York Mets. Leading the league in runs, he was chosen MVP in the World Series. In 1977, Reggie Jackson signed a 5-year contract as a free agent with the New York Yankees for $300,000 a year. Once again, he led his team to a World Series championship. During the series, he became only the second player in history to hit 3 home runs in one game. He followed that season with a second World Series win against the Dodgers in 1978. His World Series hitting earned him the title Mr. October because he could be counted on to pull his team to victory in the Fall Classic. Happy 76th birthday to Reggie Jackson.
You recognize the song?
I don't, but I love it. What is it?
Oh, it's a classic. It's so back when I was a kid, the cable really wasn't huge, so there
Right.
wasn't out-of-market games.
Okay.
So there's a show called This Week in Baseball that had clips, and this is the credit music for that show.
I did not know that. It's
Yeah.
great music.
It is.
I love it.
Yep.
Perfect. Oh my gosh, I love that. All right, well, I'm going to do one final birthday, which is quite the opposite of the music that Pete just played. It is the birthday of the late Perry Como. Much softer, much quieter, much slower. Singer born on this date in 1912 in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. He died at the age of 88 in 2001. Perry Como was an American singer, actor, and television personality. During a career spanning more than half a century, he recorded exclusively for RCA Victor for 44 years after signing with the label in 1943. He recorded primarily vocal pop and was renowned for recordings in the intimate, easy listening genre pioneered by multimedia star Bing Crosby. Mr. C, as he was nicknamed, sold millions of records and pioneered a weekly musical variety television show. His weekly television shows and seasonal specials were broadcast throughout the world. In the official RCA Records Billboard magazine memorial, his life was summed up in these few words, quote, 50 years of music and a life well lived, an example to all. Como received 5 Emmys from 1955 to 1959. He also shared a Peabody Award with his good friend Jackie Gleason in 1956. He was inducted into the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Hall of Fame in 1990 and received a Kennedy Center honor in 1987. Posthumously, Como received the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 2002. He has the distinction of having 3 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for his work in radio, television, and music. Hits include Catch a Falling Star, Papa Loves Mambo, and It's Impossible. Happy birthday to the late Perry Como. It is 7:02. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, Jen Giffune, our resident dietitian, is with us this morning for Diabetes Dialogue. We'll be back.
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardie siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com, they are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:05. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. And in addition to Pete Coles, who's behind the boards over there, we have Jen Giffune, our registered dietitian, our resident registered dietitian over here, who joins us on the third Wednesday of every month for Diabetes Dialogue. So before we get to that, let me just do a couple of announcements that I didn't get to because Pete and I were yapping away about.
I know we did a lot of catching up today.
Yeah, we did. Well, some changes too. We wanted to cover some of the Southwick, information for people that are tuning in from Southwick, so they know what changes Pete has in store for them. And we obviously had to talk all about the budget and so forth. So, a couple of things. On the Westfield Council on Aging Presents series, Pete was talking about that because we will be recording, but we're not going to tell you who our guest is for June, but they'll be recording that today. But for May, we have District Attorney Anthony Gallooni, who came into the studio to tape this last month with Harry Rock, talking about senior scams, what to look for, and how to fight back. And this was a really, really informative interview. It is aired on Channel 15 on Tuesdays at 2:45, and we have 5 Tuesdays throughout the month of May, so we still have a couple more Tuesdays. If you've missed that, please tune in. I think it's incredibly important for the seniors to get that information, because as much as you think you will never get fooled, trust me, you will get fooled. Also, I want to remind folks that we are now doing leisurely indoor dining at the Senior Center twice a week, so Tuesdays and Thursdays. We started that a couple of weeks ago in May. It is the reservation process for our meal program is the same, whether it's curbside or indoor dining. You need to call the morning of between 8:30 and 9:15 to reserve. No walk-ins for the leisurely indoor dining. We give the number of meals to the kitchen crew at 9:15. When we shut off the phones from taking lunch reservations, that's when they get their final number. So that we don't have extra and, so we're not wasting food. So it's been, the numbers are still fairly small, but they're starting to pick up a little bit, and people who are coming in are really enjoying it. For those of you that have concerns, for the pandemic, the endemic, whichever demic we're calling it at this point, we have, room capacity, so we can only have so many people in the great room. We have just 4 people at the larger tables and just 2 people at the smaller tables. I think people are really comfortable with that. And check-in procedure, it's really kind of nice. It's actually been a lot of fun having people come back in, and we're starting to. Yesterday we had a couple people who hadn't seen each other in over 2 years. There was a couple who came in. They were sort of dating pre-COVID, and during the pandemic they got married. Wow. And so they came in as Mr. and Mrs. yesterday, so that was kind of exciting for the people who haven't seen them. We've seen them through the curbside line a little bit since then. They actually kind of eloped.
I love that.
Yeah, they had, their families knew that they were getting married, but they just decided, you know what, because, they're older and there are all kinds of relatives and everything, instead of they didn't want a big splash, so they just went off and then came back and said to their kids, okay, now we're married. So it was, it was just really great. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. So anyway, make your reservation. The menu is on page 2 of the newsletter. As I did mention, today is our Parade of Hats Mother's Day curbside luncheon, so that was pre-registration. So, but also I am doing this a 2-part workshop series beginning tomorrow. We are still taking sign up. We still have people signing up for this. So it's called Downsizing in Place. So it is how to kind of reduce the clutter in your house before you make the decision to move. So while you have the time and while you can do this methodically, so huge, every time I do this, I haven't done this in 3 years because of COVID, but every time I do this, my staff gets completely into this. So one of my staff members, her partner has signed up for this. So now, of course, I'm getting the backstory on his, collections and this, that, and the other thing. And I said to her, and, there were certain things that got brought up. And I said, yep, we're going to address that. I'm going to give him a step-by-step on how to do this. And I said, but there's a lot of psychology to not only gathering things, but then also getting rid of things. And when I say get rid of, that doesn't necessarily mean throwing out. It may mean giving them to another person. It might mean recycling. It might mean donating to a charity. I mean, there are lots of ways that we start to scale down. But there is a whole psychology to it. But I keep throwing this around, and people heard this last week on the radio, because I can't tell you how many people said, "Is that really true?" Do you know the average household has 300,000 items?
I would believe that. I would believe that.
I had one person who said, "Oh, that can't be true. That can't be right." And then I had
It
another.
blew my mind. Then I went down to the basement.
Yeah. Well, and then I had another senior who said, "Oh, I think that's lowballing it." There are people who have definitely have more than 300,000. Bigger houses, more storage, more room.
Yeah.
I cleaned out my mother's first house that I grew up in to move her to a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yep.
And she had the original boxes for all the appliances in the house, in the cellar. Yeah. She had so much stuff, I can't even tell you.
Yep.
But then I had to downsize her again to go to the assisted living.
Yep.
And then I had to downsize her again to go to the nursing home.
Yep.
And it was a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an amazing amount. It's just an amazing amount. And there is,
Yeah.
There is a whole psychology to it, because there's, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how, what's logical, what's not logical. Why do people get stuck? But I think the main thing is, so many people are they don't know where to begin. That's the problem. And so it's so monumentous. It's so overwhelming that you just kind of throw up your hands and say, I can't do this. And what do? You leave it. I work with older adults. You leave it to your kids. So we're
My
going to
goal
talk.
is to not do that.
Yes, exactly. And same, because you know what? One of the first things I'll say to my seniors when I do this workshop is, how many of you have said, "I don't want to be a burden to my children"? I mean, most people, kind of feel that way. It's like, I don't want to be a burden. And they're thinking things like, I don't want to have to move in with them. I don't want them to have to take care of me. And I was like, if you don't want to be a burden to don't saddle them with trying to make the decisions on your treasures and your possessions, because you're trying to second guess, oh, mom thought this was so, and maybe mom really didn't care at all about that. Like, give that to Goodwill. I don't care.
Right.
But you know what I mean? You're trying to figure that out. Yeah. And we did that. It was so funny when Gary's mom, we had to downsize her. And so there we are. And I had said, I'm not making decisions, but I'm an organizational. Everybody was like, "Tina, you have to take lead on this." And there are 5 kids in the family. So I said, I'm happy to take lead, but I am not making decisions. She was not my mom. She's your mom. And a lot of the stuff was your stuff. So I said, but I'll get it organized so that it'll be easy for you to do that. But the funny thing is at one point, everyone was at the hospital visiting Gary's mom, and I was at the apartment trying to go through stuff, and Gary's sister was with me because we had to give up the apartment. And so, there were certain things that I wasn't sure, like, is this valuable? Is this meaningful? So we had an area, so we had like a table in the center, and Janet said, well, we'll put it there, and when the kids all come back, we can talk about that. So I don't remember what it was. I held up something and I said, okay, well, this I think can just go in the donation. And my sister-in-law said, no, that was really special to my mom. And I said, oh, well, I'm so sorry. I said, okay, well, we'll put that on the table. So it got on the table. So kids all came back from the hospital. My other sister-in-law, Gary's other sister, takes a look at the table and she goes, well, what's that doing there? My item. And Janet goes, well, that was really special. But Lynn said she didn't care about that. She got that at the dollar store. It's nobody. She goes, that gets donated, So, I mean, that's the whole point. It's like you're trying to figure it out. Your siblings and you are trying to work this through. And so if you can alleviate that so they don't have to do that.
It's very helpful.
It's really, it's a gift to your children. Yes. So we're going to talk about that. So anyway, if you're interested in that, it's a 2-part workshop series tomorrow and next Thursday, because I had to give you a week in between because you're going to have some homework to do. Not a lot, but a little bit to get started. So if you're interested in that, you want to call the Senior Center today to sign up at 562-6435. And then my last announcement before we take a break and then we get started with our diabetes dialogue this month is we are offering in our chair yoga classes, we're getting mixed reviews from the current participants. We have 3 chair yoga classes. We've been offering 3 chair yoga classes for about at least 5 years, 5.5 probably. And, same class. We've offered it on, during
TV.
during the pandemic, we offer, and we still offer it on TV. So, Pete, you'll love this. So, Terry Summers, who teaches the chair yoga classes, also teaches at the YMCA. We are trying to go in with the Executive Office of Elder Affairs with their model of fitness and exercise being therapeutic. And so they're looking at things like measurable outcomes. How do we know someone is improving? And they're also looking at, there's a huge push right now on falls prevention for older adults. Huge push on that. And, a few weeks ago, I did a piece on, and I spoke in front of the city council on the complete streets. And part of what I was going for there was falls prevention and just having, making things pedestrian friendly, because one of the statistics and one of the things that I started looking at was the rate of concussions among seniors from falls, which you don't think of that. We think of concussions with student athletes, motorcycle, things like that. Right. You don't think of it as much with seniors, but it is something like 50% of concussions are seniors due to falls. So big falls prevention thing. So anyway, back to my chair yoga. So Terry and I said, we've got to do something here. We've got to make this a bit more therapeutic. So Terry has taken her 3 yoga classes and has now broken them down. So starting this summer, people will sign up for, it's called progressive chair to floor yoga. That's one class. Gentle chair yoga. That's kind of the traditional stay in the chair. And then in and out of the chair yoga. So, some of them are, and it's designed to be progressive so that you move through these levels. Some of the seniors that have been participating are very enthusiastic about this because they feel like I'm ready to take it to the next level. I mean, I've been doing this for a while. I've mastered this. Others are not so much, So we're going to see how that goes. But if you're interested, the signups for that are going to be curbside on June 8th. And the summer schedule, which this is going to be July and August, so we're kind of running it as a pilot to see how this goes. The schedule is at the greeter's desk. So because people have been asking me, so and there's a little there's an explanation in the main newsletter on what those 3 levels are. And then Terry has actually been doing some demonstrations for her classes. So that, because people are asking, what, and as Terry said too, it doesn't mean on the first day you're going to be going on the floor. If we're doing progressive to the floor, we have to get there. That's the whole idea behind it being therapeutic. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. All right, let's take a short break, and then we're going to get into our topic of the day. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. Jen Giffune is with us today, and we will be back in just a minute.
Inside, find a corner where I can hide. Silent footsteps crowding me. Sudden darkness, but I can see. No sugar tonight in my coffee. No sugar tonight in my tea. No sugar to stand beside me. No sugar to run with me. Da-da-da-da-da. us all. Lonely feelings is yes, and I believe inside all the things I say. Find the corner, got the faith or the guts to leave it when standing in each other's way. Silent footsteps out to places you've been to. You wonder what you're gonna find. Sudden darkness, you've been wrong and it won't be long before you leave them all far behind. 'Cause it's the new Mother Nature taking over. It's the new splendid lady come to call. It's the new Mother Nature taking over. She's getting us all. She's getting us all.
Support for community radio on WSKB provided by Westfield Electroplating. Employing over 140 skilled platers, painters, and technicians, Westfield Electroplating was founded in 1946 and was the first company in the country to achieve National Aerospace and Defense Contractor Program accreditation, proudly maintaining that status for over a decade. Westfield Electroplating provides over 50 quality finishes to meet your corrosion, cosmetic, or performance needs. On the web at www.westfieldplating.com or 413-568-3716. Westfield Electroplating, putting the finishing touches on technology.
Join me, Tina Gorman, each week from 6 to 8 a.m. for Wake Up Wednesday, when my guests and I discuss health, wellness, and lifestyle reimagined.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:24. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with Jen Giffune, our licensed nutritionist, registered dietitian, and our facilitator for Diabetes Dialogue here at WSKB. So before I turn it over to you, Jen, I just also said I promised people before that I would talk a little bit about this when you were here. May is National Salad Month, which it's a great month for that because, you know, all those fresh fruits and veggies are coming out. So I'm going to read my little blurb here because I know at some point in this discussion you're going to touch on this. So May is National Salad Month, and with the warmer weather here, there's no better time to give your oven a rest and enjoy a lighter meal. When we typically think of salad, we think of a traditional side salad or a green salad. But experiment. Remember that salads include fruit and can be expanded to include protein, which make delicious entrees. A salad can be a nutrition powerhouse. To boost the nutrition of your salad, think about adding color and texture. It's like doing decorating in your home, color and texture. Start with the greens, and instead of using only iceberg lettuce, try mixing in darker greens like spinach, kale, or red leaf lettuce. Add your favorite veggies for flavor and crunch: cucumber, tomato, shredded carrot, radish, red cabbage, or a few options. Fruits add a sweetness to your salad. If you've never tried that, you can try citrus fruits like mandarin oranges and grapefruit, or you can go with sliced strawberries or fresh raspberries as a topping. And don't forget the protein. Beans like garbanzo, black or pinto beans add protein, fiber, and flavor to any salad. Low-fat cheese or a lean meat, fish, or chicken is also a great addition. Nuts and seeds also make a terrific topping, adding crunch and flavor. So there's your salad thing. But Jen, I'm going to turn it over to you. Where are we going today with this? Because we started talking about nutritional buzzwords a few months ago, and I think we were going to sort of kind of blend some of these and continue with some of these buzzwords that we've all heard, but we don't really know what they mean.
So today we're going to talk about vegan, vegetarian, flexitarian, and pescatarian.
Good Lord.
These are all versions of alternative eating.
Okay, so I'm going to say right out of the gate, vegan, I hear it all the time. I really don't know what the heck it means. And you even see it on foods, like this is okay. Vegetarian, I've heard of course, you know, but still some people, there are different kind of takes on vegetarian. So as a host, sometimes when you're hosting things, you want to get and the other two I've never even heard of. Flexitarian, and what's the other one?
Pescatarian.
Never heard of it.
Okay.
So take it away.
Well, before we go, to all of that, but this kind of complements it. I just wanted to add my take on the salad issue.
Sure, absolutely.
So one thing that I like to do is not only play around with texture, but with, I don't even know what you call it, but like if I want to add something to my salad, like let's say I want to add apple, I'll take out my mandolin, which is the thin slicer that I've talked about before, and I'll slice super thin pieces of apple to go into the salad.
Gosh, I've never done that. That sounds great.
Yep, I roast.
Do you leave the skin on or do you peel them?
I leave the skin on.
Okay.
Yep. I will roast beets and I will cool them, slice them in the mandolin. I love my mandolin.
How big is this mandolin?
It's about...
I mean, like, could you bring it into the studio?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, bring it in next month so we can see what, because I don't have a visual picture of this.
Okay.
And bring the mandolin.
Bring it in.
Okay.
I'll bring an apple, show you how easy it is to use.
Love it. Okay.
But I also brought this time recipes.
Oh, awesome.
So this is how to roast vegetables so you can cook and throw them into your salad. And you can throw them in hot or cold.
Okay.
And you can decide if you want to add seasoning. I usually roast with olive oil and black pepper.
Okay.
And like last night I roasted Brussels sprouts, parsnip, and carrot.
Okay.
And I had them in separate sections in case we didn't want them all.
You know, parsnip is one of those things, like, I don't make it because I don't really know how to prepare it. So this would give me an idea of how to do it, how to roast it.
Yeah, it's on here.
Okay.
How to roast a dry roast nuts, because throwing walnuts or almonds, cashews into a salad is a good way to get heart-healthy fat and a little bit of protein.
Okay.
But if you roast them, you get more flavor.
Okay.
And then I also included how to roast chickpeas. So if you want to crunch.
Oh, yes.
Instead of those like fried onion ring things, this is how to roast chickpeas. And you can change the flavorings. The recipe is salt, garlic, and they use garlic salt. I would use garlic pepper, cayenne, but if you don't like the hot and spicy. So I'm going to leave these.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And none of them are my recipes.
Right.
I got them online.
Okay.
And then I also have a recipe, just to be different, of vegan chickpea salad. So basically, there's no animal products in this. We'll get to the definition.
Yeah, I was going to say, so that'll help us to know what vegan really is.
My all-time favorite lentil soup recipe, and I didn't like lentil soup until I had this one.
Okay.
I modified it a little, so I put both my name and the name of the original author. And then something that's very foreign to most people, tofu. I have a tofu scramble recipe, which is like scrambled eggs, but with tofu.
And is the tofu in that one hard, soft, or medium?
It's extra firm.
Okay, extra firm.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
So I always think it's important to know how to use foods if you're hearing about them for the first time. And I don't want people to think, well, that's so foreign, I don't know what I would do with it.
Right, exactly. That's like way out there for me.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with some definitions. It's easiest to start with vegetarian first.
Okay.
So vegetarian is someone who chooses to get their proteins mostly from plant-based products. So peas and beans and tofu and the fake meats that are out in the supermarket. They eat plenty of nut butters and things like that.
Okay.
But a vegetarian may still consume dairy products, so milk and cheese and yogurt from a cow. I always feel like I have to add that now.
Well, I know, and it's so funny because that's one of the we had somebody who visited us a couple of weeks ago, and he's vegetarian. And I said that to Gary. I said, "Can you have him define that? Like, hard-boiled eggs? Can if I do a salad, can I put those in? So yeah."
So the other option is to have eggs. Okay. So they would call that an ovo-lacto vegetarian. That's the clinical name for it.
All right.
Some vegetarians choose not to have eggs, but they'll have dairy. They'll let you know what they are doing. They'll consume a lot of. They're open to things like honey, even though it's from an animal.
Okay, so one of my questions do they not eat fish at all then?
They do not eat fish.
Okay, so anything animal, no.
Other than eggs and milk.
Okay.
From a cow.
Okay.
Is a vegetarian.
From a cow. Got it.
Okay. Then there's something called a pescatarian.
Never heard of it.
Okay, so pesca is another word for fish. So they're a vegetarian, and they may choose to have eggs and milk, but they're also open to having fish.
Aha, see, there's my fish question.
So that's a pescatarian.
Pescatarian.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, in the old days, it was just vegetarian or vegan, and that was it. But we had to broaden the definition and spectrum.
Well, in the really old days, Jen, it was just like everybody just ate meat and chicken and fish. Okay.
Right. Yeah, you ate what you had to because that's what's available.
Because that was, that's how you survived. Okay.
So I have people who are pescatarians who will only eat fish, vegetarian things like peas, beans, whole grains, fruits and veggies, but they won't have milk and eggs. So,
okay.
you know,
Right.
I think it's smart if anyone tells you, whenever I have people over, I ask them what their food preferences, allergies, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, if someone tells me they're a pescatarian, I confirm, do you have dairy products? Do you have eggs?
Right.
Or do you just have fish and the base of the vegetarian lifestyle? So it's interesting. I have one patient who is a vegetarian but eats shrimp. That's it. So
there it is.
Okay.
So I'm a shrimpatarian.
Okay. Yep. And then there's something I would call a flexitarian. Now, I would define myself as a flexitarian. So a flexitarian is this. Most of the time, I eat vegetarian.
Yep.
I can have dairy products. I don't very often. I have alternative dairy products. I do have eggs. I eat shrimp. I don't eat fish. I'm the only dietitian probably on earth who will admit that. But I base my life on soy products and, you know, alternative meat products that are made from plants. But, you know, if someone makes me a turkey sandwich, like when I go down to help my daughter, you know, sometimes, you know, all we have is turkey, and I have to get on the road to come back from Boston, then I'm going to take the turkey sandwich.
Okay.
You know, but for the most part, I choose to not have meat.
And let me ask you something, Jen. In your years of many years of practicing, have you found that people have kind of transitioned to these, you know, diet, for lack of a better term, because of sort of a philosophy or because of a health issue that it just, you know, they've maybe had irritable bowel syndrome and that just seems best for them? Or is it a common? I'm always curious as to why people, like, you wake up one day and you just say, I'm going to eat vegetarian. And to me, it's like, was that because you are against killing animals or whatever, or because?
I think the answer can be all of the above plus more. So some people definitely choose not to have animal products because they have a strong feeling towards animals.
Okay.
Some people choose to do it because of health issues. Some people choose to do it because of taste or texture. For me, I became a vegetarian, a mostly vegetarian, years ago because I just don't like the taste of meat and I don't like the way it feels in my mouth.
Yeah, well, to me, that's probably the most logical reason. It's like, you know, either I don't like the texture, I don't like the taste, Right.
Yeah. So, you know, when you've heard of those Beyond Burgers?
Yes.
Okay, so they're like almost like meat, and they look like it. They're supposed to feel like it. They're supposed to taste like it. So when they were spanking brand new, I was at the Dallas airport flying. We were going on a long trip, and that was our layover. And we went to this restaurant, and I ordered the veggie burger, thinking it's going to taste like a veggie burger should. And she comes out, and I take one bite, and I'm like, this is meat. I can't eat this. And she's like, isn't it great?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. I don't like ground beef.
Yeah.
I don't want it to taste like ground beef.
Yeah.
I want it to taste different.
Well, do you know what it actually was? I'd be so curious as to what is it that tasted that much like meat? Or was it just
I don't know how they
the spices
flavor it.
or
I think it's, you know, plus they work on the texture.
The texture.
And they throw in things to make it look, you know, bloody.
Yeah. Ground beefy.
Yeah. And so Joe, my husband, had to eat that, and I had to get something. Like
Yeah.
I got whatever else there was.
Oh, that's so funny.
But yeah, because I had already taken a bite, so it's not like you can send it back.
Right. Well, and you know what? So the thing that's interesting about that, Jen, is that like I do enjoy meat, but not every meat. So I think of like something like lamb, which completely kind of turns my stomach. So my thought is that if that's for somebody, if that's how they feel, if that's how you feel every time you put any kind of meat in your mouth,
right?
Yeah, that's gross. I wouldn't. It's the same thing. It's like, okay, I would definitely not be. I would definitely go toward a more of a vegetarian diet.
Yeah. And you can go back and forth. It's fluid.
Yeah.
I have people who suddenly have a nutritional need, and if they can't, first we try to get it through food.
Yep.
If we can't get it through food, then we use supplements.
Okay.
But you have people who don't want to do it through those foods, so then we automatically go to supplements. But there are risks for nutrient deficiencies in a vegan lifestyle. So let me explain vegan. Vegan means absolutely no animal products.
Okay.
So no cow's milk, dairy, no cheese, no yogurt from a cow, no eggs, absolutely. And like I was saying before, no honey, because honey is from a bee. A bee is an animal.
Okay.
So a vegan completely...
A really strict vegan.
Yeah. Well, you're either vegan or you're not.
Okay.
There's no in between.
Yeah.
A vegan is plant-based only.
Okay.
And so, fortunately, in this day and age, there are a lot of alternatives out there.
Yeah.
But they have to be careful to make sure there's no, gelatin in there, which can come from an animal. There's no honey in there, so.
So do you think for vegan, that's more philosophical and less? Yeah. Okay.
I think that's much more philosophical. It could be a taste texture thing.
Yeah.
It could be, I've had people who had an experience as a child with a food and that turned them off to an entire category.
Yep.
I mean, everybody's got that. I ate this, then I got the stomach flu. I haven't been able to eat it for 15 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I've had that.
Sure. Yeah, I think everybody has.
Yeah. It's interesting, but
so I'm thinking with vegan, my guess would be, but again, okay, I have two things. One is I would say it must be challenging to make sure that you're getting enough protein.
Yep.
But my second thing following that is, but you know what? If you're leading that lifestyle and I think at first it would be hard if you were switching into this.
Right.
But once you start, then it's like any other diet plan or, meal plan. And I hate to use the word diet because that implies you're going on and off. And
we'll call it an eating style.
An eating style.
Because it would be lifelong.
Right, exactly.
But some people will do their homework and they'll find healthy sources of vegetarian or vegan food. So, and protein is the big issue.
Yeah.
So they may discover tofu, and I brought information to explain tempeh and seitan.
Okay.
Which we'll get into later. But they do their research. They find cookbooks or recipes. One of the recipes I am giving you, the lentil soup one, the name of one of my favorite authors of cookbooks is there. His name is Mark Bittman, and he has a fantastic cookbook out there called How to Cook Everything Vegetarian.
Okay.
A lot of the recipes are vegan, but not all of them.
Okay.
And there's a great resource called the Vegetarian Times. So they have vegan recipes, they have vegetarian recipes. So if you do your homework, you can successfully, in many cases, follow a vegan or vegetarian lifestyle. You have to be aware of where you could have nutrient deficiencies, though.
Right.
So knowing that you can be absolutely B12 deficient, you could be iron deficient, you could be calcium deficient. These are things that you have to become aware of.
Right.
Having said that, there are a lot of people who are vegans or vegetarians, and they live on, I'll call them vegetarians, not vegans, but mac and cheese, and peanut butter, and chips, and and they're the people who come to see me going, I became vegetarian and I've gained 30 pounds and my cholesterol's up and my blood sugar's up. And then we have to go into how to actually do this so that you can benefit your body as well as your mind.
Right.
Because your mind may be clear because I'm not having animal products, but your body is reaping the negative benefits of not knowing enough. Because you can take B12, you can take iron if you need it, you can eat foods that will have B12 or iron in them. There are combinations of nutrients to promote the absorption. So, it's just learning.
Yeah, and I've heard that about the combinations. I think that can become complicated for people. I mean, they've got it.
We don't even do that really
much
anymore.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I rarely talk about combining proteins.
Yeah.
Because people eat such a wide variety of foods now that they're getting nutrients in.
I think the other thing too, Jen, that's so interesting now versus 10 years ago and 20 years ago is we have the internet.
We have
there's so much more information, and now you can print out recipes and it'll tell you the calorie count and the protein count. It gives the carbohydrate, all of those breakdowns that in the past you were leafing through a cookbook thinking. Right. Okay, am I getting everything that I need if I make this recipe?
Took me 5 minutes to pull the recipes together. Yeah. Not all of them have the nutritional value, but I decided, for a quick printout of some ideas of how to get started, this is just the start. If you're on the journey towards less animal products, this would give you some information. Someone who's already a vegan is going to go, yeah, I already know that stuff.
Yes, right. Well, I would imagine if you become vegan, it's a conscious effort, and that you've done some homework. It's not like you don't just wake up one day and declare, well, I think I'll be vegan. I think there's got to be some homework that had already been done about, okay, what does this really mean?
Yeah, yet again, not necessarily. Okay. I would like to think people would do that, but they don't. Not all people.
Yeah.
There are some people, and they end up seeing me because all of a sudden their nutrient levels are off, and they're, they need guidance.
Kind of all over
and that's
the map.
fine because that's what I like to do. I'm happy to sit and read. I read through cookbooks. To me, that's fun.
Yeah.
And I like to stalk the supermarket and see what's there and what's new and try
Well,
things.
I think that's the other piece. So we're going to take a short break now, but I think that's the other piece of it. I think sometimes people are hesitant to get into any of this thinking, listen, I shop at Stop and Shop. I shop at Big Y. I can't be going to all these, Whole Food markets and everything, and I can't be spending, $7 on, a half a pound of something. So I want to get into that a little bit, maybe when we come back on where do you find these things. So let's take a break. It is 7:45. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My guest this morning is Jen Giffune, licensed nutritionist and registered dietitian. In honor of the topic, Pete, are we on the Vegetables by the Beach Boys? Yes, we're going to do the song Vegetables by the Beach Boys because it's salad month. Here we go.
I'm going to be around my vegetables. I'm going to chow down my vegetables. I love you most of all, my favorite vegetable. If you brought a big brown bag of them home, I'd jump up and down and hope you'd toss me a carrot. I'm gonna keep well my vegetables, cart off and sell my vegetables. I love you most of all, my favorite vegetable. Oh, table vegetable. I tried to kick the ball, but my tenny flew right off. I'm red as a beet, 'cause I'm so embarrassed. Oh, yeah. jump, 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 I know that you feel better when you send us in your letter and tell us the name of your favorite vegetable. I know that you feel better when you send us in your letter and tell us the name of your favorite vegetable.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley. With convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut, visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:48. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses on WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and in the studio this morning with me is Jennifer Giffune. Jen is a registered dietitian and licensed nutritionist. She's here on the third Wednesday of the month to do our Diabetes Dialogue segment. And, we've talked before, Jen, I don't want people turning it off saying, well, I'm not diabetic. Because really everything that we talk about here is for everyone. I mean,
Right.
Healthy eating is healthy eating, whether you're diabetic or not. Certainly it's, very important if you're diabetic.
We should just change the name to the Nutrition Dialogue or something.
Well, when we bring back the diabetes support group in person, that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring that back to the senior center in person, and we're going to change the name of this. And you had a couple of good ideas that I liked.
I'm sure I had something.
You did. I
know.
wrote a bunch of stuff down
good.
because I had a ton of them. And then you, off the top of your head, well, what about this? And I thought, oh man, I just spent about 3 hours trying to come up with something, and that's better than anything I came up with.
It's like, I can't open this jar, and you hand it to someone, and they
go,
instantly
pop.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. All right,
Okay,
so we're
so-
talking vegetarian, we're talking vegan, and
Where to
my
find
question
these.
is, where do you find this stuff?
Okay, so first of all, you don't have to look far and wide.
Good.
You can go to Stop and Shop or Big Y or Target, Walmart, because there are things out there that are easy to use and healthy. So you can buy a bag of dried lentils for like $1.89 at the store.
Yeah.
You can buy canned vegetables canned dried peas and beans like kidney beans, chickpeas, stuff like that. They're really relatively inexpensive. If you're worried about your sodium load because of blood pressure issues, you either buy the dried versions or you buy the no salt added canned stuff.
Can you buy? I don't think I've ever seen dried chickpeas. Can you buy those?
You could probably buy those,
I see
but
them in
you
a
may
can.
have to buy those more at a specialty
place.
But
Yeah,
you can
I've
buy
seen them.
kidney beans, navy
Oh,
beans,
yeah.
all of those.
Yes.
beans. And they last they have a hugely long shelf life.
Yes.
So you can buy them, store them,
Get them on sale.
Yep. So those are easy to find.
Okay.
Nowadays, 25 years ago, you would have found very few options for what I call fake meats. So nowadays, though, there's like 5 or 6 main brand lines. So there's Morningstar Farms, there's Gardein, I'm trying to remember the names, Boca.
And are those in the produce
They're
section?
in the frozen food
Oh, the
section.
frozen section. Okay.
Usually you'll see a section of vegetables and then vegetarian foods.
Okay.
And you'll find vegetarian meatballs, and I call things anything that's like a fake meat, I just put an F before the name. So there's Fakin, there's sausage, there's, burgers, at our house, that's what we do.
Yeah.
But there's fake bacon, fake sausage, fake meat. I saw fake fish the other day, which I used to not be able to find at the regular supermarkets. You'd have to go up to like a Whole Foods kind of stuff for that. Not that I would probably eat it because I don't.
You don't like the
fish.
taste of fish.
Okay. But I do want to throw in for the audience that I told you during break that I do try fish every single year. I've done this forever. And it's different fish, it's different preparation, different flavors, different everything. And I still don't like it.
Which is the only thing that's surprising to me about that, Jen, is that there are so many different varieties and types and textures of fish that I would have thought by now.
They still taste fishy. Everybody says they taste just like chicken, and I'm like,
no, fish does not taste like chicken. I don't know.
And I believe, well, first of all, my parents never fed us fish other than tuna.
Yeah.
And I had a friend have a bad reaction to tuna once.
Ah, okay.
And after that, I couldn't even eat tuna.
Yeah, yeah.
But I do. I try it every year, and I most recently, this year's fish, I would have to call it seafood of choice, was I tried octopus because my husband was having it, and he said how delicious it was. So I tried it, and the closest I can come to how I felt was it's not awful, but I wouldn't go out of my way to eat it.
Yeah.
You know, plus I envision this, you know, octopus,
I know. It's just,
it's like,
that one is hard for me, you know, kind of that slimy.
But
you know.
getting back to where you can find fake foods, they're everywhere. Yeah. The thing is, you have to go in with an open mind. So if you're going to try a veggie burger, other than those Beyond Burgers, it's not going to taste like a hamburger. Mm-hmm. If you're going to try soy nut butter, it's going to look like peanut butter. It's going to come in the same kind of jar, it's same coloring, all that same texture, but it's not going to taste like peanut butter. If you're going to try fake cheese, that's a tough one because it looks like cheese, but it really is different.
But you know, some of the fake stuff, like what is it?
Some are made from cashew nut butter, some are made from almond, some are made from cashew milk, some are pea protein, some are coconut based.
Okay.
So, you know, and it's interesting. Like, I don't like provolone cheese, but I like the fake provolone cheese. It's just different.
Yeah.
It's different enough.
Well, you know what? Everybody's taste buds are different. And, you know, my thing is, because you learn this after a while, it's like, if you're going to try something like Gary wanted to try almond butter.
Yeah.
He had never tried it. And, you know, he decided that he needed to have this. So I said, okay. And so I had my hand in Big Y on the larger container. And I said, no. Let's start with the smaller container. Right. Yes, I know that generally it's more expensive when you buy it in smaller quantities, but in that case, it really paid off because he tried it and he finished the container, but he said, nope, not so much.
Not for you.
Yep, not for me. So I'm glad I only got him a little tiny bit to start.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can find tofu, seitan, and tempeh usually in the produce section. At the very end of the produce section. Yep. Sometimes it's in the health food section, like Stop and Shop and Big Y both have a health food refrigerator case. Yep. So I just wanted to explain what those tempeh and seitan are, because most people have heard of tofu. They've seen the block, but most people go, I don't know what the other stuff is.
Yeah.
You know? So tempeh is made from soy.
Okay.
It's made from whole soybeans, and it's fermented, so it's got probiotics that help with gut health. Yeah. It looks like kind of a off-white. It's a flattish kind of block, so it would be like half the size of the block of tofu.
Okay.
Like as though it were smashed down, and it looks almost like it has. To me, if you were to cut it, it would look like it has polka dots. But they're like oval-shaped polka dots.
Okay.
And it has a very mild, almost nutty, earthy, mushroomy taste.
Okay.
Plain, it's kind of boring.
Yeah, well, which is like tofu.
But you can stir fry it. You could throw it in wherever you would throw in meat.
So let me just ask you, isn't tofu made from soybean?
Tofu is, but it's made from, not from the whole beans. It's made from, I think, soy milk.
Okay.
And then
I was going to say,
it's
how
also
is this
fermented.
Okay. Yes, it is. That's why I'm thinking, okay.
Because it's not whole beans, that's why it has a different texture.
Now, and what are we talking about? Tempeh? Is that,
tempeh.
Yeah. So is that the one you were just saying that's flatter?
Yes.
Now, is that one, is it now tofu comes in like soft and firm and extra firm. You can either slice it or or it's almost like more of like a cottage cheese.
Yeah.
What about tempeh? Is that the same?
Tempeh is sliceable. It
is.
Why people like it? It has more of a texture that would be more solid.
Okay.
Okay, so it has a better mouth feel to it because let's face it, that's important.
Yeah.
But like tofu, it absorbs flavor because tofu is an absorber,
right?
You know, and tempeh is very similar to that. You can eat tempeh straight out of the package.
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily suggest that you do that. I would flavor it up. You can steam it to soften it if you need it softer. You can cook it, you know.
Okay.
To give it a better.
And is it in the same area as
right
tofu
where you
in the
get
grocery?
the tofu?
Okay. All right.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
And then and tofu and tempeh are gluten free. So if someone's having digestive problems, tofu and tempeh are gluten free.
Okay.
Seitan is different. It is made from wheat gluten, so obviously not gluten free.
Not gluten free.
And I'm just confirming. Yeah. I'm like, I always worry that I say the wrong thing. Tempeh is soybeans. Okay. Seitan is, again, flattened, and it is what many alternative meats are made out of.
Okay.
Wheat gluten. They may not say seitan. It'll say wheat gluten on it because it has the most meaty texture.
Okay.
So if you see fake bacon in the store or you know, like a sausage, it's often made out of this wheat gluten, and it absorbs flavors as well, and it's got fermented.
Yep. And how do you spell seitan? I don't.
Seitan.
Okay.
So I once saw a very funny episode of a TV show, and it was a divorced family, and the dad's got the kids for the weekend, but the kids are living with mom and their new vegan stepdad, and you know, the dad is a meat eater.
Yeah.
And he's like, I ordered these, you know, whatever steaks, and we're going to throw them on the grill. And the son and daughter are like, oh, we don't eat meat anymore. We eat seitan and tofu. And the dad hears Satan.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
Like,
I knew where that was going.
That was so
All right,
fun.
we got to wrap it up. We have about a minute left. So seitan,
tofu, and tempeh, all good sources of protein, but also dried peas and beans, nuts, nut butters, and even grains like quinoa, all good sources of protein for people who are trying to live more of a plant-based lifestyle.
You know what, Jen? I want to thank you for coming in because this kind of series started on these nutritional buzzwords. This is really helping me because I have, you know, vegan has become more popular over the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years. And I honestly never knew what that meant, you know? I mean, it was kind of like, okay, somebody's got this particular. So thank you for doing that. We'll continue with our nutritional buzzwords. So you and I have to come up with some ideas for next month on what you want to talk about. And in the meantime, you have to bring the mandolin in. We're going to do a demonstration next month. Stay tuned. We have everything Southwick coming up in just a couple of minutes. My name is Tina Gorman. Again, this is Wake Up Wednesday. Have a wonderful week.
Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket, never let it fade away. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket, save it for a rainy day. For love may come and tap you on the shoulder some starless night. Just in case you feel you want to hold her, you'll have a pocket full of starlight. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket, never let it fade away. Never let it fade away. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket, save it for a rainy day. Save it for a rainy day. For love may come and tap you on the shoulder some starless night. And just in case you feel you want to hold her, you'll have a pocket full of starlight. Pocket full of starlight. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket, never let it fade away. Never let it fade away. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket, save it for a rainy day. Save it for a rainy day. For when your troubles start multiplying, and they just might, It's easy to forget them without trying. With just a pocket full of starlight, catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Never let it fade away. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Save it for a rainy day.
Save it for a rainy day.
Save it for a rainy day.
Support for the community programming